So we're going to discuss Power BI. All right, so Power BI, what does Power BI do? So Power BI transform data into stunning visuals and share them with colleagues on any device. So Power BI is one of the applications that we use for data analysis and is the most popular, right? So you can either use Power BI or you use Tableau, but Power BI is more recognized than Tableau though. So Power BI is used to transform data into stunning visuals. So one good thing about Power BI is that you can use it to create very wonderful visuals, right? Than you do in Excel, right? In Power BI you can create very good visuals that are very interactive. So and also one thing about Power BI is that it's it has different version. You can get Power BI as a device like in your phone mobile device. You can get Power BI on your mobile device. You can get Power BI on your tablet or iPad. You can get Power BI on your PC too. So you can actually share your project and anyone with any device can access your project. Then Power BI visually explore and analyze data on the premises and in the cloud all in one view. So Power BI, you can use Power BI to analyze the static data and also you can use it to analyze an on-cloud data. That means a live data, a data that is live, like it's being more data is being added to it, right? A static data is a historical data that they are already done. Let me say 2024 sales data. Yeah, it's a static data. Nothing can be added to it again. But a live data is like 2024 end of 2024 sales data. Every month, every day, new information is being added. Every month, every day, new information is being added, right? So in Power BI, you can analyze live data in Power BI. You can analyze live data in Power BI. So whenever a new data is being added, it refreshes. Then you can collaborate on and share customized dashboard and interactive report. So Power BI is very interactive. You can create dashboards that are very interactive, right? The only interactive thing about Excel dashboard is just the slicer, but Power BI, all the charts are interactive, all the charts are connected. I think it's here. Reports in Power BI are interactive. That means that all charts work in contraction as one. So all the charts are interactive. If you click on a particular thing in a chart, it affects all other charts. But in Excel, it's only the slider that's interactive in Excel. Then it scales across your organization with built-in governance and security. So it has built-in governance and security. Then we're going to talk about what visualization is. What is visualization? I think I mentioned this during our opening class, our first class. I mentioned what visualization is, but we're going to talk about it again because Power BI is one of the tools we use mainly for visualization. We use it to analyze data, but it's well known for visualization. So, what is visualization? Data visualization is the simplest in its simplest explanation is nothing but the pictorial or graphical representation of information or data. So visualization is just the graphical or pictorial representation of information or data. So visualization is just using pictures or graphics or graphical charts or whatever to represent information. So when you're representing information using picture or you're representing information using graphics, it's called what? Visualization. So data visualization lies at the intersection of design, communication, and information science. So visualization comprises of designing it, communicating through your visuals, and then passing out information. So this is what visualization is, just pictorial or graphical representation of information or data. So how does visualizing data help users? Why do we need to visualize data? Can't we just, you know, get insights from data as it is and just use it to make decisions? Why do we have to visualize data? We visualize data to, okay, visualization allow data to be represented in different ways, leading to insight into data relationships that may help them make better decisions. So visualization allow data to be presented in different ways, leading to insight into the relationship that help them make better informed decision. So visualization help us represent data in different ways that it wouldn't have been possible without visualizing it, right? So when data is represented in different ways, it helps us see data in different ways and get different kind of insights from them, helping us to make better decisions. So visualization helps in making better decisions because it helps us see different angle of a data. Then it provides insight into complex data sets by communicating the key aspects in more intuitive and meaningful ways. So it provides insight into complex data sets. Some data sets that are complex, right? Let me say 2024 sales data is going to be complex. It's going to have a lot of information there. And then if you just expect stakeholders to just look at it and understand what it's saying, they might not have the time, they might not have the patience, and all the numbers are just going to look so complex. So that is why we visualize data. When we analyze those data and visualize it, it's more easy for anyone to understand. When you look at the data, you understand. When you look at the visuals, you understand what the data is talking about. So visualization help break complex data. Yes, simplify complex data. So then the last one is users will be able to look at data from different perspective and find insights into data relationships. So this is very similar to the first thing we said, right? So it helps us to look at data from different perspective, right? Help us look at data from different perspective and then to find insight into relationships. So now this is an example of a well visualized report. This is an example of a well visualized report. So this is how a well visualized report is meant to be. Now, without anyone telling you anything, without you even knowing the title of this dashboard, you are going to know what this visuals is all about just by looking at it. And that is actually the most important rule that we follow when visualizing your data. Visualizing your data, you need to make sure your data is you need to make sure your visual is very easy to understand. And when someone just looks at it, he or she understands what the message you are trying to pass, the information you are trying to pass. So looking at these visuals now, I'm seeing Buhari, I'm seeing Jonathan, I'm seeing um article, and I'm seeing INEC. So stuff like this is giving an idea that, oh, this should be Nigeria election, right? It should be Nigeria election. So whenever you are visualizing your data, you need to make sure that it's very easy to understand. You can import visuals like pictures this way, whatever that will just make your visuals so easy to understand. They even went ahead to put the total number of votes for these two candidates. They even added the total number of votes for them. So now you know, okay, Buhari, this is the total number of votes for Buhari, this is the total number of votes for Atiku. And then you also look at this place. Here we have KPI. These are KPIs, right? And now look at this KPI. So now this is also these things are what you must have in your visuals, right? It's not a must to get a picture, right? It's not a must to get a picture, but you want to, if you know it's going to help pass the message you are trying to, if you know it's going to help you pass your message, then you can import a visual. But if not, you can go ahead without doing so. So now, after the visuals and all, the next thing we are going to look at is the KPI. So KPI, I already talked about it in our Excel class. I said it means key performance indicator. So now it's telling us the general performance of this election before we even go into the analysis. It's telling us, okay, in this election now, we have seven states in Nigeria it was involved, 73 candidates. That means 73 people um ran for presidency. Then registered votes. This is total number of registered votes. And then this is the total number of overall votes. That means this number of people registered, this number of people voted, right? Then it's telling us valid votes, and then it's telling us number of invalid votes. So before I even go into the analysis, and I'm already getting a view, I'm already getting a summary of the election, right? Which is very important. So this is why KPIs are very, very important. KPIs are very important. It gives us the general knowledge of the performance of that of the sales data or of the project or whatever. So it gives us general knowledge of it before you can now go into analysis. So after KPI, the next thing you notice here is the slicers. So slicer is very important in your visuals, and KPIs very important in your visuals. So after the KPI, the next thing you should look out for is the slicer. So slicers are very important in your visualization. So you notice that we have a year column as slicer, and also we have the different parts of Nigeria here as a slicer. So now this is 2015 and 2019, right? So and then this is the different states in different parts in Nigeria, the north central, north east, northwest, south east, south south, and southwest, right? So this is a slicer. So during your analysis now, if you want to know specific information for northwest, if you want to know the sum of votes by state and candidate in northwest, you click on the northwest slicer. If you want to know for southeast, you click on southeast. All the information here will turn to give you for southeast, right? So if you're not selecting any slicer, that means it's going to give you general information. That means as it is now, let's assume that no slicer is being selected. This is giving us general overview of all the seven states, right? So if you now want to go for a specific state, then you can click on the slicer for that state, and it will give you for a specific state. So you see, before we even get to see our analysis, we are seeing slicers, we are seeing KPI, right? Before we even get to see our analysis. So these things are very important things that you need to take note of when creating your dashboard. So another important thing, very, very important thing you need to take note of is colors. Is colors, right? Colors are very important. Number one, if you're working for a brand that has a brand color, you are meant to use the brand color for your visuals. If you notice, Nigeria is green, white, green, right? So and that was what was used here. So at least we have some things that green, white, green gives us idea of. Like now, if you are working with Excel, if you notice on YouTube, most persons that do videos on Excel, their thumbnails are mostly green and white. Their thumbnails are mostly green and white because that okay, people relate green to Excel. So that is also the same thing here in your dashboard creation. Whatever you're working for or whatever you're working on, if that company has a brand color, make use of that brand color. In the company I work for, their brand color is white, yellow, black. So whenever I'm doing an analysis for them, I use those brand color, right? But in case they don't have brand color and you want to make use of any color of your choice, you have to be sure that the colors are not contrasting. That means the colors are not fighting against each other. The colors are not too sharp. Example, some persons might want to use orange together with red and then royal blue. Like the colors are just very off, and that they're too shouty. They can actually disturb people's eyes. So you're not meant to use that kind of color. That kind of color can just discourage stakeholders from even looking at your dashboard. And if any of them have eye issues, they will even have a problem with that. So you should make use of colors that are mild, right? Colors that are not, shouty. Colors like and also when you're working with color, at least work with two color, highest three. But even if you are to work with four, make sure that the colors are not contrasting, they are not fighting against each other, right? They are very easy, okay to look at. They're very warm when you look at them, just like the colors that are being used here. What we are seeing here is white, green, and gray. You see that it's very cool, it's very fine this way, right? So whenever you're using color, you have to take note of how to use color. If you don't know how to use color, you can go, okay, which color works with, you can just browse, right? Browse color combination online to know the color that rhyme with any color you want to use, right? So that makes your work easier. So color is very, very important when doing your visuals. So your visuals should contain pictures or logo of the company if necessary. Then it should contain KPI, it should contain slicer, then your charts, yes, your analysis. So this is an example of a well visualized report. This is an example of a well visualized report. So we're going to go ahead. Now we're going to talk about part of Power BI desktop app. So we're going to talk about part of Power BI desktop app. So in Power BI, we have what we call Power Query Editor. What we call Power Query Editor. Power Query Editor is also in Excel. It's also in Excel. If you remember, we used Power Query Editor in Excel to import data, right? So it's also in Power BI. So this Power Query Editor, what do we use it to do? So Power Query Editor contains the back end of things in Power BI, making changes in the data itself. So Power Query Editor is where we do all the cleaning and transformation that the stakeholders don't get to see. So that's why it's called the back end of things in Power BI. So Power Query Editor is when you do all your cleaning, all your transforming, and so on before you start visualizing and all that. So and in Power Query Editor, it is what we call ETL, um extract, transform, and load part of the data. So Power Query Editor is what we call ETL. In Power Query Editor, we perform ETL. ETL means extract, transform, and load. So we're still going to go in depth. We're still going to talk about these three concepts on its own. So yeah, so we perform these three things in Power Query Editor. We extract data, we transform data, we load data in Power Query Editor. And then it can be used to connect to different data sources. We connect different data sources in Power Query Editor. Like whenever we want to import data, we go to get data, then you now specify where the data is coming from. If it's a CSV, if it's a text, if it's an Excel file, and also if you're getting the data from a database or you're getting data from web or so on. So we also connect different data sources in Power Query. And also Power Query can be used to merge and join different tables like in SQL. So you can merge and join different tables in Power Query. Like the way we merging and join different tables, just like maybe let me say supermarket now has a table. Table is also called a data set. Yeah. So supermarket has a table that contains their products. That's what they sell. Then they also have another table that contains how much they bought it and the quantity they bought it at, right? So you can use Power Query Editor to join those two tables to be one. So the tables will not be one. It's one table that has the product that was bought, how much they were bought, and the quantity that they were bought. So joining two tables, merging two tables, we do that in Power Query Editor. Then it's also used to perform replace group by changing data types, etc. So this is part of the ETL process. the replace, group by, and changing data types. So then it's also there is also M query, but this is more advanced. This is for more advanced users. So now we are going to go into in depth what ETL means. Please, if you have question, you can call me back. Okay, so we are going to continue with
Continue. I'm enjoying it. Don't worry.
okay,
I can go back to the video and look at it, but still, I think I'm getting along with your explanation.
okay, thank you. All right, so now before we go into explaining what ETL is, there's another service that there's another function that we do in Power BI. It's called DAX. It's called DAX. So what is DAX in Power BI? DAX is an acronym for data analysis expressions. Data analysis expression is a library of functions used in Microsoft Power BI for creating calculated columns, measures, and custom tables. So we use DAX to create calculated columns. We use it to create measures and also use to create custom tables. So calculated columns is just creating a column. You already have a table and you created a new column in your table. It's called calculated columns. So using a formula to create a new column is called calculated column. So we've already done that before in Excel. Like maybe you don't have a revenue column, but you have two columns you can use to get your revenue column. And then you write a formula to get your revenue column. That's a calculated column. The measures is just calculations. We're still going to talk about all these things, right? So just need to know that we perform data analysis expression in Power BI. So yeah, we are talking about DAX. So I said DAX are just like formulas that we use to perform actions in Power BI. Like we use formulas now to create a new column, using formulas to calculate, do some kind of calculation or create a table. So these formulas now is a collection of functions, operators. Functions are like the functions we know. Count is a function, sum is a function, maximum, minimum, average, count if, all those things we talked about in Excel. They are functions. And then using operators. Operators are like equals to, not equals to, less than, greater than, all those operators. And then constants. Constants are your yeah, I think your data set is your constant that can be used in a formula or expression to calculate and return one or more value. So that's what DAX is, using functions and operators and constants to yeah, using it that can be used for a formula. Yeah, using it as a formula or expression to calculate and return one or more values. So the formulas we do the formulas you write in Excel is also DAX formula. So DAX formula is not just seen in Power BI, you can also see it in Excel. Just basically formulas that we use to calculate or filter things during our analysis is called DAX. So we can perform DAX using date and time functions. We can perform DAX using text functions, filter functions, and relationship and statistical functions. So we can use all these things. We can create DAX for all these things. So we are still going to talk about DAX. These things, these are just overview of everything. Now let's move into ETL concepts. So we are going to start with transform. The T. The T means transform. Okay. Let's just start with extract. So the E means extract. So what is extraction? Remember that ETL happens in Power Query Editor. ETL happens in Power Query Editor. So ETL is a data science concept that stands for extract, transform, and load. Right? In Power BI, it is more like a guide or process of working with data. So it's like a guide and process of working with data. You extract data, you transform data, then you load it. So now what is extract? Extract refers to the act of connecting to data of various sources, live or static, and formats. So connecting data to various sources is connecting out of connecting to data. So connecting to data of various sources is called extract. Just how we go to our get data and then we'll select the format and then we import our data. It's called extraction. So importing your data is what we call extraction, right? So then it is done in Power Query. So in Excel, we imported our data using Power Query. So that's just what extraction is means. So data can be a live data, it can be a static data. Is all the data importation. So that is what extraction means. So the next is transform. So what is transforming? So transform is the process of cleaning data for errors, changing data types, eliminating irrelevant columns, joining and merging columns. So transform is just the cleaning process of your data. So when you import your data, when you extract your data, that's importing your data. The next thing to do is to transform it, that's clean it. So cleaning involves what? Removing the it involves removing errors, changing data types, removing irrelevant columns, joining or merging columns, which we've done before in Excel, and it is typically concerned with structuring, shaping, and fine-tuning of data in preparation for analysis. So transforming is just preparing your data for analysis, and some of those transformation include removing duplicates, removing error, replacing values, replacing errors, changing data type, transforming, and then splitting your column. So transformation is just data cleaning. That's why we call it data cleaning and transformation, right? That is what the T means, transform. Now we go to the L, which means loading and visualization. So after loading data into Power Desktop, the next step is to model and visualize the data. The Power Desktop contains three main windows. We have report, data, and model. So in Power Desktop is where we now do analysis. After we load our data, we load it into Power Desktop. We load it into Power Desktop. So that is where we do our analysis, right? So we have the report view. The report view in Power Desktop is where the finished product of Power BI is made. Insights are drawn here using various interactive charts. As the name implies, dashboard reports are prepared here using charts, and the insight drawn from them is very user friendly, and I think this is the last, and graphic oriented. So the report view is where you will analyze your data and build your visuals and dashboard. The data view is where you will see your table. After you finish loading is if you want to see your table, to create a new table, you go to the report view. Then the model view is when you create relationship between tables. Creating relationship between tables to be able to analyze them all at once. We'll still talk about how to do that. So modeling is just like creating relationship between two tables so that you can be able to work on them as one. So you model data when you cannot merge data or join the data, right? You only join data or merge data. You only merge data that has the same columns, right? That has the same column. That's the only data you're able to, yeah, that's the only data you can merge to become one table. So you can't merge two tables that has two different information. It's not just going to look, it's just not going to be possible. It can work, but it's going to be useless, right? It's going to, imagine you have a product table and then you have a customer table, and you want to merge it to be one table, and then you'll be getting under the product, you'll be getting after the product is done, you under it you now see customer names under it. Like, it's not going to make sense. So that is why we join, that is why we create relationship. So as we cannot match them, we create relationship between them using any column that they have alike. So let's say product table has order ID, and then the customer table has order ID. We create relationship between those two tables using order ID, so that we can now work with two of them as one table. So that's all those things is what we call modeling. So we are still going to talk about all these things. We're still going to do them. We're still going to do everything. So that is it for that. So let me see if I can power on my Open my Power BI. This is Power BI here. So when you click on blank report, this is what we call Power Query. Sorry, this is what we call Power BI desktop. If you remember, I mentioned that in our Power BI desktop, you are going to see three compartments, which is the report view, table view, or data, and then the model
Yeah.
view. So this is the report view. This is where you analyze your data. If we actually are the report view now, we are the report
Okay.
view. This is the table view. There is no table here, so we don't have anything to see here.
You
Then
don't
this
have
is
it.
the
Okay.
then this is the model view.
Model.
There's no table either,
Okay.
so there's nothing to see here. So this is the report view where we do our analysis. This is the visualizations here.
Okay.
So if you want to get your data, you go to get data. This is the first step, which is extraction. So you go to get data, select your data source, and then import your data. When you
Okay.
import your data, you're going to import it into Power Query Editor, where you will now do your transformation. So, all right, so here, this is where you see load and transform. So now I believe you understand
Mhm.
what transformation means. I will click on transform editor here now. So it's very similar to the Excel ones, it's just the same thing actually. So in Power Query Editor, you see your apply steps, you see your ribbons, even column quality and all that. So that is it. So um you can now start our data cleaning.